I feel like the monkeys with the little cymbals.
Ah! The monkeys with the cymbals.
I hope Josh is listening to this without like really paying attention. Then all of a sudden,
The monkeys with the cymbal. Clanga, clanga. All right.
All right, episode 104.
Any chance we want to do 99 just in case? Go 99, 104.
We can do that.
Okay, since they're technically back to back anyway, we're probably not changing. I am gonna change real quick, but it'll take just a moment. All right, so you won't have to though. All right.
We still need to come up with the title too.
What?
We
don't
still
need that now though, do we?
No, but I was just telling you at some point we'll need to. All right, go for it.
Episode
99.
Episode
99.
0. Episode Episode. Hang on.
Wow.
What?
Wow. That
Wow,
escalated quickly.
I call everybody a douche. What are you talking about?
Okay.
No, I don't. That's not true. Hang on. I got to adjust this one thing real quick. I just realized. All right. And here we go. How do you like this voice? How do you like me now?
That's exactly what I just thought of.
I don't like Google Docs when you make it smaller, then it doesn't like just squish the text.
Yeah.
Okay. Episode 99099. Have you ever had the opportunity to talk to someone that you have looked up to for a long time? Well, what would you That was dumb. All right, episode 099. Have you ever had the opportunity to talk to somebody that you looked up to for a long time? What would you ask them? What would you talk about? Well, I had the opportunity to do that earlier this year. All right, episode 099.
Do you want to add something in there about, and it's like the most popular episode ever? Or something like
Yep. Okay. Have you ever had an opportunity to talk to someone that you looked up to for the longest time? What would you talk about? What would you ask them? Well, that's what I had the opportunity to do earlier this year, and it became my most popular episode ever. In today's episode, a replay of my most popular episode ever, my guest and I talk about fear, business, and how to prosper with purpose.
Welcome back to the World Changer Show. Whoops. What was I doing there?
It's like, welcome back to the
no
World
idea.
Changer Show. Yay. I'm excited, can't you tell?
Yay. Welcome to the World Changer Show with Matt McWilliams. I'm your host, Mark Sieverkrop, a world changer just like you and Matt. On each show, we're going to bring you an inspiring person or message to help you unleash the world changer inside of you and live with passion, lead with purpose, and leave a legacy. Thanks for joining us today. Now let's get started. Welcome back, everyone, to the World Changer Show. You're listening to episode 99. And as always, you can find the links to everything talked about today, including the unedited video cast of the interview on the show notes page at mattmcwilliams.com/099. Now, in the past couple months, we've spent a couple weeks counting down some of the most popular episodes of the World Changer Show. We counted down the third most popular episode, which was Matt's interview with me on the power of networking. And
How did
leaving a
that
job you
happen?
hate. I have no idea. Completely stuffed the ballot box. The second most popular episode was an interview with Ridgely Goldsboro on how to learn what drives you. And today, we're going to share with you the absolute number one most popular interview we have had on the show ever. Did I say ever? Ever. We're through almost 100 episodes, and this is numero uno. Matt, I'll let you share who it's with.
Forever, ever?
Ever.
Just made me think of some Outcasts there. Wow. Circa 1998-ish, maybe? 1999. Anywho, the number one episode through 98 episodes now is a guy that I have looked up to for the longest time. I have listened to his podcast for years before recording this, and he was one of those guys like I had up there. I had 3 or 4 people that were like dream guests. And this guy was one of them. And I want to share that, since we recorded this episode a while ago, this guy and I have actually become very good friends, and he has become a client of ours. We worked together recently on his ultra successful launch for his Copywriting Academy course. And it's just, it's amazing where things have gone since recording this interview, places I never could have imagined. And I was stoked to do this interview. You can tell in my voice, I was just super excited. I had a little bit of a fanboy tone going on there. But like I said, since I've gotten to know him on a very personal level, and it has been such a treat. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to the most popular episode of all time to date, Mr. Ray Edwards. I think we can just skip to the interview then.
Thanks for taking everything I talked about afterwards.
I didn't know.
I know. You should read through these.
All right. Ray, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Well, Ray, I actually discovered recently that you and I have something in common. In addition to our dashing good looks and doing a podcast, of course, I heard you mention it recently in an interview when you're interviewing Cliff Ravenscraft that you spent 2 absolutely glorious and unforgettable years in the insurance business.
I certainly did, offering people a piece of the rock.
Nice. Yeah, you said that with Prudential. And I can actually trace my roots in this online marketing world. In fact, the reason why I'm doing this very podcast today, to my background working in the insurance world, I lasted a little longer than 2 years. I spent about 7 years in that industry. Wow. selling to insurance agents, actually selling insurance leads, talking to people like you were for those 2 years.
Wow, that is amazing.
So let's start there. Actually, let's go to that point in your life. You worked in insurance, and you even said you were really good at it. In fact, so good that you felt you're making good money. So good that you felt that if you stayed in it much longer, you'd make so much money that it would be impossible to get out of. But you hated it. What happened next after you left that career?
I ate a lot of macaroni and cheese, and I went back to my first love. At that time, the radio business, and had a great run in radio for a lot of years after that. I was a disc jockey, and I became a program director, and then a vice president of programming for one of the bigger broadcast companies in North America, and had a lot of fun doing that. But then along came this thing called the internet, and I don't know if you're aware of this. That's been a real problem for radio stations.
A little bit. I heard about that. Why is that actually? What is it? Just that radio isn't adapting to this new medium? Well, what do you think
that's
is?
One of the problems. The thing is, you can get. What do we go to radio for in the past? We went to it for music. Back in the olden days, which weren't so old, it was really expensive to buy music, and people didn't own all the music that they wanted, and they learned about new music. And they learned about what they wanted to buy by listening to the radio. That's why we had the American Top 40 countdown. That's how you caught up with what are the popular songs now. Well, now you've got iTunes for free, and you can listen to all kinds of free samples of music, and you can hear things and know what you want, and you can download it for cheap or for free, and there's no commercials, and you get to choose your own programming, and it's just it's really hard for radio stations to compete with that when they have to run a commercial load of 12 to 16 minutes an hour of ads to make it work. And, of course, they don't have to do that, but they're so entrenched in the way they used to make money that they seemingly don't feel that they have any other choice. I was in Seth Godin's office in the early 2000s for a small group event that he hosted, and everybody got to ask him questions about their business. And I asked him, at that time I was in the radio business, and I said, What would your advice be to somebody in the radio business? And he said, I would be thinking about what I was going to do once I was out of the radio business.
Yeah.
That
is interesting. It's funny. As you were saying that, I forgot. It's 2014, and I forgot that only 20 years ago, or about 20 years ago, that I remember having to listen to that. If I wanted to hear a certain song, And I didn't have a car. I was only 15 years old. I'm 35 now. I didn't have a car. And so I couldn't just say, you know what, I'm going to drive down to Best Buy or wherever and buy a CD. And if there was a song I liked that had only been out for a few weeks, I basically had to listen to the radio. And if last week it was number 3, I had to start listening early enough, because what if it had dropped down to number 10?
Yeah.
And so I had to listen to all these songs I hated just to take 3.5 minutes of my life to hear the one song I liked. And so much has changed now. It's like you hear the song on the radio, you Shazam it, you go, bye. And next thing you know, I'm sick of it a week later. I've listened to it so many times.
Yeah.
So it's amazing to think that was just, 20 years ago. Wow. I feel old now.
It's a different world now. It's on demand.
It is. It's scary in a way. But one reason that I wanted to have you, Ray, on a show called The World Changer Show is that you boldly declare in your jingle. Now, truth be told, I thought about singing this next part, but I had this debate with myself for the past half hour and decided I didn't want to lose half my listeners in the next 10 seconds. It's just because I cannot carry a tune. I think I might have been born tone deaf, and it's entirely possible. And I can play instruments, but I cannot sing. So I'm going to say your theme song's line, and that's, "Let's change the world and watch your business grow." Now, my question for you, Ray, and obviously there's a little bit of sarcasm in this question, but is what makes you think that that's what you can do, or that you can help others to do the same?
Well, I think that's what we all can do. I think the root of business is to bring value to other people, and then they exchange their value with you. And so usually it's in the form of money. I have something that you value, and you value the thing I have, the product I have, more than you value your money. And so we swap. And that's how we do business. And when we're doing it right, both sides win. I, the product producer, win because I get revenue or money or profit, and you, the buyer, win because you get the thing that you wanted, the iPhone 6 Plus or whatever is the thing that you want. And so we both win. And when we do business that way, with that kind of heart, that kind of attitude, it changes the world. People talk to me about, I just had an interview yesterday with a gentleman who was talking about doing business so that you could do good. In other words, making money so you could give it all away. And I said, I've got sort of a different slant on that. I think that doing business in and of itself is good, inherently good. I think God made it to be good. And so he was kind of puzzled by that. And I explained, look, even if I am somebody who wants to build a personal financial empire, I want a big house and a big car, and I want to take fancy vacations, and I want to fly all over the world and take cruises and eat in 5-star restaurants and stay in 5-star hotels, you might think, well, that's pretty self-indulgent. You could give that money to the poor. You could help people. And so my answer to that is I am helping people, because there are people who have jobs that depend on buyers so that they can build these fancy cars, these big houses. They can service them. They can clean them. They can create businesses called hotels and travel agencies, and they can work in restaurants, and they can get tips, and they can be tour guides. And all of those people need to make a living somehow. And if there aren't people spending money with them, they don't make a living. So we're changing the world by doing business. And I don't think that we're going to solve the problems of world hunger and world poverty and sickness and genocide. I don't think we're going to solve them through government decrees. I think they're going to get solved by entrepreneurs who go out and make a difference in the world and empower people to live a better life and empower people to create the kind of lifestyle that they want to have for themselves and to raise themselves up. In every way that you can measure, life has gotten better over the last 2,000 years on planet Earth. There's a video on YouTube you should watch if you have a chance sometime. It's by Hans Rosling, Rosling. And it's amazing as he describes how the world has improved over the last just 200 years in health, in terms of longevity, quality of life, income, every way you can measure. And I believe that's because of business.
I'll make sure to link to that in the show notes, which, by the way, audience, you can find at mattmcwilliams.com/024. And, you were just speaking about that, Ray, and I'm thinking about my grandmother when she was in her 80s. Now, keep in mind, she was 80, had, I think, 3 broken hips, if that's even possible. And she's not exactly one of those people who's going to go out and run a half marathon tomorrow. And I'll never forget this person that I was talking to. I won't mention who they were, but they're a family member, and they were critical of my grandmother for having a housekeeper, as though that was a privilege, and they felt like, she shouldn't be able to do that, and she can just do that because her late husband was rich, and what about the elderly people who don't have the housekeeper? And I only said one thing in response to this person. I said, who doesn't feel that way? Her housekeeper. Her housekeeper, who I happened to eat lunch with one day, was a single mom who was putting her son through college. That was why she was she had a quote unquote full-time job. That's why she did housekeeping. Said her son and her are perfectly fine with my grandmother having this luxury in life of a housekeeper.
Absolutely. Yes. And people will cite cases where there are abuses of that, where people are not paid enough, they're treated poorly. Sure, there are abuses in every walk of life, but just because you can cite abuses doesn't mean that you have an overreaction and swing the pendulum in the other direction and say, well, nobody should have a housekeeper, because then look where would that lady be, and where would all the other people be who have those kinds of jobs? And certainly in my life and career, I did things that were not glamorous and were not necessarily fun, but I got paid for them, and I needed that money, and I was grateful to have the opportunity.
Absolutely. The other example I always think of when quote unquote rich people get criticized for buying a yacht, I can think of a lot of people who really are glad they're buying a yacht. It's called people who make yachts.
Yep. Exactly.
The people hammering the boards together are very grateful for that wealthy person buying.
Yeah, and the ripples go so far and wide, from the people who make the hardware to the people who make the navigation equipment and the carpeting and the hardwood floors that go in the yacht and the varnish that goes on the hull and all the different things that we don't actually think about very much. We don't realize what an impact that has, and that's how we're going to change the world for the better. That's how we are doing it. And anybody who feels drawn to business, I believe you're called into that area, into that way of improving the world, and I think you should follow that call. That's your first best destiny.
Love that. One of the things that you mentioned at the beginning, when I asked you what makes you, Ray Edwards, qualified to do that, or what makes you think that that you can change the world and help their people's business grows, is you said that's what we all do. That's what we're all meant to do, and that's the message of this podcast is we're born to change the world. My personal belief is, and this is my paradigm, my life experience, is that there is a God and He is a creator, and He made us with a purpose. And that purpose is to change the world, or else why would He have made us? I always just think I don't believe there's a God in heaven who creates all these other people who they were supposed to change the world, and then He has these leftover parts. He's like, well, there's an arm, and I can connect it to that shoulder, and, well, I'm just going to make this person. No, He made every single person to change the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, another tagline that you use is you teach others to develop, and I'm quoting, prosperity with purpose. What does that mean to you? And that may be kind of what we were just talking about, but what does prosperity with purpose mean to you, Ray?
Well, it is exactly what we were just talking about. And some people interpret it as thinking that what I mean is make a lot of money so you can give it away to charity. And that may be what you do with your money, but that isn't necessarily the case. I think that making money, being in business, creating wealth, adding value to the world is in and of itself a good and wholesome and godly endeavor. And if you feel at all called to do that, then you should do it. And I think we all are in some degree. Not everybody feels the call to be an entrepreneur. Some people feel the call to have a job. And good, because we need people who want jobs. Otherwise, a lot of stuff wouldn't get done. And so that's good also. But, the Bible says whatever you do, do it as unto the Lord. Think of it as a sacrifice, and I don't mean that you're giving something up, but it's an offering that you're giving. You're saying, God, I'm doing this, and I'd like to, at the end of the day, I want to do it so well that I could sign your name to it and say, look what God has enabled me to do. And so it doesn't mean that we don't take justifiable, and I believe, righteous pride in what we do. He empowers the doing of it, but, He didn't think of it this way. He didn't need us for anything. God doesn't need anybody or anything. He's wholly sufficient within Himself. And yet he created us, and he created a system, a universe, a world in which we get to cooperate with him and work with him together to govern this planet. That's an astonishing thought. It's an astonishing idea. You know, man's original assignment in the garden was to take dominion over the planet, and that's still the assignment. It hasn't changed. God didn't change his mind. And so what does that mean? It means for us to go out and do the things that we've been assigned to do. And for some, that's to be an artist. For others, it's to be a writer. For others, it's to create businesses. And others, it's to have a job. But we all have something that we feel drawn to, and it's our way of changing the world for the better.
I love that. Well, Ray, one of my favorite features of your podcast, in fact, it's the reason why I literally never miss an episode. I'm late to a few, but I never miss one. And it's the only podcast. Actually, there's one other podcast like that. That's Michael O'Neill's podcast, where I never miss an episode. One of my favorite things about it is that you, in my opinion, you successfully combine your two very different passions. And you would probably argue that they're not different, but I think to the naked ear, they are different. Your career or your skill, copywriting, marketing, business, you combine that in the midst of one podcast with your faith, your personal beliefs. How did that come about to do a podcast like that?
Well, I know what you're saying when you say that to the naked ear, it probably seems like they are two different things, and to me, they aren't. First of all, if nobody has this yet, somebody should have a podcast called The Naked Ear. I'm just saying that's a fantastic title for a podcast.
Let me hang on one second. I got to go register a domain real quick.
Yes, he's off to go, Daddy. I remember a time when I kept the two things separate because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. You know, that was back when I lived out the advice: the two things you never talk about, religion and politics. And I realized at some point, wow, those are like the only two things that matter in many contexts. Now, I don't mean that family doesn't matter and that friends don't matter, but out of the list of important things in life, politics, which is really about the governance of the world, and religion, which is really about your relationship with your spiritual essence. What two things are more important than that? So I did keep them separate, and I reached a point where I had a spiritual renaissance in my life, and I decided that if I really believed that the things that I said I believed were really real, it wasn't showing up in my life, and I needed to figure out what that meant. You know, I was going to church. I said that I believe in Jesus Christ and that I follow him, but it really wasn't making me any different than anybody else that I saw in the world who didn't believe. So I decided I'm going to go after this all the way, and if it's really true, if what I read in the New Testament is really true, then there should be something more available to me in life than I currently have access to. And I began to discover that was true as I began to realize that I could have a sense of the presence of God, that I could hear his voice, his promptings, his leadings, that I could see him at work in the world doing remarkable, amazing things, that he could be part of my life in a real way, not an imaginary friend in the sky, but a real person in my life and have an impact, make a difference. Because a difference that makes no difference is no difference. And so as I began to discover that, I started to hear very strongly from him that, you only have one life. Why are you keeping me in this box, in this compartment hidden away? I want you to give your whole life to me. And that includes your business. And it was a big decision for me at the time. And now I laugh. It's funny to me because it was such a huge thing to me. And now I just can't imagine doing it any other way, because I am so consumed by the person of Jesus Christ and his presence in my life that I can't not talk about him. I can't not acknowledge his presence. I can't act as if he's not in the room wherever I am. And I don't try to preach to people. And I think for the most part, people's reaction to me is even if they don't share my beliefs, I think the strongest reaction I get is usually, well, that's all good for you, Ray, but let's talk about the business stuff now. Because I don't require anybody to believe what I believe. God doesn't require us to believe in him. He gives us the choice. So how could I require anything more of people than God requires of me? And so, but I am who I am, to quote the great philosopher Popeye. I just am what I am. And so, if you hang around me very long, you're going to hear about what Jesus has done in my life and what he's doing in my life and what he's leading me to and the amazing things I've seen him do for other people. you're just going to hear about it because it's important to me.
When you first decided to do that, I mean, were you scared at all, or did you think it was risky?
Oh, absolutely. I thought it would be the end of my business. I'm not exaggerating. I really thought. I told my wife. I said, "Well, I'm going to publish this post on the blog, and this could be it. I may have to go look for a job after this." And I wasn't exaggerating. I really thought that would be the case, and it turns out that it was. And I've had various reactions. I don't want to paint the wrong picture here. I've had people strongly react and say that was inappropriate. You shouldn't do that. And my answer is, well, if you don't like what you hear, you don't have to listen.
And most people are listening on a smartphone or an iPod or on a computer, and they have these things called you can move ahead. You can scroll ahead if you really do want to not hear that part. And I'm sure that you have listeners who do that. Ray's going to talk about Jesus now. Let me see where he gets to the part about how to build my business.
Yep.
But I just, my philosophy is with stuff like that, you're putting it out there. You're like you said, you're just being who you are. You're having a conversation with the listener, and eventually, whether it's because their iPhone's not working right or they're on a jog and Ray Edwards is the next podcast on the on the list. And I know what it's like when I'm out running. I don't have the gloves that are like the digital gloves, and when it's cold, I just have to listen to whatever I'm listening to for 45 minutes if I'm running. I'm not fast forwarding through anything. I'll listen to the same podcast that I just listened to the day before. It's not going to change. And so I think of people like that, and eventually they got to listen to Ray talk about Jesus. And maybe, just maybe, that's going to, have an influence on that person's life. I can hope so, at least.
Yeah, I hope so too. But I guess I should be clear. I don't have an agenda with people. I have friends who don't believe in God, who are atheists. I have friends who are Muslim. I have friends who are Jewish. I have friends who just don't even think about this kind of stuff. And I don't have an agenda with any of them. I just love people, and I love my friends. And if they hear me talk about Jesus and they don't like it, they can say so. And if they hear me talk about him and they have questions, then I'm happy to answer them. But I think there's a whole subculture in Christianity of people who are they're like Amway salesmen. They've got a pitch and they've got a close that they're going to lay on you at some point, and you get the feeling that you're only being my friend because you want to give me the pitch. And I don't do that. I used to be really good at that too, just like I was at selling insurance. I went through, and there was an evangelism training program at my church, and we had a pitch. We had like a little flip book that you went through and gave people the presentation. You got to the end and you had the closing questions. It was really remarkable. I was like, wow, this is just like the insurance business. Only, you don't actually get I guess it's fire insurance. I guess is what we were selling. But I got lots of people to say yes. I don't know how many of them actually ended up having a relationship with Jesus, or how many of them just said yes because I was putting the old sales pressure on them. But I don't do that anymore. And I just share with people, this is my life. He's part of it. This is what he's done. And, I'll give you an example of how this works now. And I don't know whether this is appropriate for your show or not, but here we go. I have a few consulting clients that I've worked with over the last few years. And I had this one guy that I was working with over the course of a few months. And every time we talked, I would tell him a story I would say, hey, I got to tell you what God did this week. It was this most amazing thing. I prayed for this kid who had a knee injury, and his knee was healed instantly on the spot. And he was literally jumping up and down, and he was following me around as I was going to the grocery store telling people what just happened. He was so freaked out by it. And so I would tell him stories like this. And eventually he came to Spokane for a meeting, and we had breakfast together. And he said, Ray, I got to tell you something. I don't know if you're aware of this, but when I met you, I wasn't a Christian. And I said, oh, gosh, no, I didn't know that, really. And mentally I'm thinking, oh, my goodness, all these stories I told him, I just always assumed that he was. And he was always interested. He always wanted to hear. And he said, yeah. And he said, and you kept telling me all these stories about God and about Jesus and about how you hear his voice and all these things that happen in your life and all these things that God are doing. And one day he said, I was walking on the beach, and I just was thinking about those stories, and I just felt the presence of God, like for real. And I got down on my knees, and I said, I don't even know what I'm doing, but Jesus, I want what Ray talks about. I want to have you as my Savior. and he gave his life to Jesus. And I never gave him the pitch. I never walked him down the Roman road and had him pray the sinner's prayer, which, by the way, never appears in the Bible, just FYI. Try to find it.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me where it is in the Bible. He accepted Christ, and it wasn't because I had an agenda. It was because he was a client, and he was a friend, and I just shared with him my life. And, God does the work. We just facilitate his presence.
I have absolutely no segue from that, Ray. That was awesome. One thing I got out of it, and I think, to be clear, anybody can get this out of this, regardless of anyone's particular faith. And like you, I mean, half the people I work with on a daily basis have a faith that is different from mine or non-existent. But one of the things that I got out of it is that if you really believe what you say you believe, whatever it is, then live that out in everything. Live that out in your work.
Yeah.
Live that out in your relationships. It, like you said, it doesn't mean that you have to living out whatever your faith is. Isn't you don't have to wear a label. You don't need anything around your neck. You don't need a fish sticker on your car or anything like that. That's not what it's about. But if you just live it out enough in whatever it is, and like you said, you can't do a podcast episode without sharing something related to your faith. And sometimes it's a minute long thing, and sometimes it's the segment you did with Frank Viola. That was a half hour, 45-minute segment in and of itself.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's varied, but you can't do an episode now. It would just not be the Ray Edwards Show if it didn't have that segment. And so you're living out what you believe in everything that you do, and I think that that's powerful.
Yeah, and I think I appreciate you saying that, because I think it's important for people to hear that and understand that it applies to their lives and their business and their podcast or whatever your art or whatever it is that you do. Just be you. It's the hardest thing to be, but you might as well be you, because everybody else is already taken.
Well, Ray, with absolutely no segue between what we just talked about and what I'm about to ask you, I'm curious, because you are somebody that I look up to. You are a successful business person who's living out their calling and changing the world. I'm wondering, I mean, is there something in your past, is a person, a book, a quote that inspired you to reach for greatness?
Wow. The problem is coming up with just one.
One, yeah.
My grandfather was an entrepreneur, and he owned 2 businesses, and I grew up in that environment, and I saw that every time I visited him, every time I spent time with him, which was a lot. And his name was actually Schwagler, John Schwagler. His family was German, and he was very inspiring to me. And he talked about frequently, he didn't use the same lingo that we use today, but he lived a certain lifestyle that he chose to live, and he had the freedom to do it because he was his own boss. He ran his own business. And so that was very inspirational to me. Outside of that, I remember my mom was in the real estate business, and she took me to some motivational real estate sales seminar, and there was a guy speaking with a funny name. His name was Zig Ziglar, and he gave a speech, and he sold a book called See You at the Top, and that was the first self-help kind of book or motivational or success-oriented book that I ever purchased or owned or read, and I wish I still had that original copy, but I don't. But that was very inspiring to me, and there's 1,000 quotes from Zig Ziglar that you could hone in on, but the one that everybody says and that was also meaningful to me was, you can get whatever you want out of life if you help enough other people get what they want. So that was very powerful for me. And then I was really inspired by the work of Ayn Rand, who wrote a book called Atlas Shrugged. Oh, yeah. And powerful book, and a lot of controversy about the book, and part of the controversy is a lot of people find it impossible to read because it's so stinking long. But I love that book. I've read it many times, and it's funny because occasionally people will say to me, how do you reconcile Ayn Rand's philosophy, because she was an atheist, with your faith in Jesus Christ? And my answer is twofold. Number one, she's not an atheist anymore. I assure you of that. And number two, I think that Ayn Rand had a sense of God and his kingdom that she didn't even know how to describe it. She couldn't use the God language because she had trouble with that concept, but she taught things and said things that, if you compare them with some of the insights of Luther and Calvin, I think you find that there's a tremendous amount of compatibility. And strikingly, I believe, there's a quote from one of her books. The book is The Fountainhead. And one character says to another character, and the character that they're talking about represents really Ayn Rand, I believe, says to that person, well, you're just a very religious person who doesn't happen to believe in God. And I think that was the case for her. And so I found her work very inspirational and very inspiring. And I could go on. I mean, there's a huge list, people who've inspired and influenced me and had a deep effect on my life. Dave Ramsey and Tony Robbins and Michael Hyatt. And I could make you a super long list, but it's probably very similar to your own list.
I'm sure. And Ayn Rand, for the record, is one of my favorite authors. I read The Fountainhead in college and Atlas Shrugged shortly after that, and both of them were life-changing for me. Ray, before I let you go, I always have one last question I love to ask people, and that is, Ray, what legacy do you want to leave?
Wow. I want to be remembered as somebody who brought the presence of God wherever he went. That sounds grandiose, but what I mean is people may not even be able to put that into words. And it's not even that I want to be remembered as much as I want to have had an influence for God's kingdom. And I believe God's kingdom is about three things. It's in the book. If you look for it, you'll find it. The Apostle Paul wrote that the kingdom is about righteousness, peace, and joy. And that's the legacy that I want to leave behind. I want to leave people with having experienced righteousness, peace, and joy in knowing Jesus Christ. There's another passage in the Bible that says that I long to know the power of Christ and his resurrection. For me, that's the purpose of living. And it takes many forms: business, art, commerce, whatever it may be. In every area, in every way, we can bring those things with us, because it's when we have him within us, it's who we are. It's what we do. It's how we operate in the world.
What a beautiful legacy that would be to leave. Listen, guys, he's my favorite podcaster. He's helping others to change the world and grow their businesses, and he's inspiring people across the globe with a message of hope, purpose, and prosperity. Ray, you are a world changer. Thanks so much for being with us today.
No problem. This was a fantastic interview, and thank you so much, my friend. God bless.
Okay, Matt, I don't want to drag this on too long, but I do need to ask you one question about this interview. Now, you kind of already alluded to this, when you first did this interview. This one's interesting because the other two replays we've done, you weren't with us because you were, that makes it sound like you went and you were incapacitated. You weren't on the episodes. And so we didn't get your feedback later after doing those episodes. So now that a year has gone by, or a little less than a year, and not only has some time gone by, but like you said in the beginning, we now count Ray as a friend and a client. What do you take from this interview, looking back on that now, with what you know about Ray, the interactions you've had, sitting in business meetings with his company? How does that change how you look at this interview?
It doesn't change necessarily what I thought of him before. Like I said, I was already a huge fan of his. But yeah, I mean, the reason why I wasn't on those past two re-recording that we aired up, previous episodes, the most popular episodes, was actually because we were working on his product launch. Yeah. We were our business was just slammed with those, and I needed every waking moment during that 2-week period to do that, or to work on that. But here's what I've learned about Ray since then is, it's one thing to talk on a podcast with somebody. It's one thing to listen to somebody on a podcast and go, okay, I have a decent idea of who this person is, and here's what he says, and here's what he stands for. But there's always that question in the back of your mind, like, is he or she really who they say they are? Mm-hmm. Ray is. And I will tell you, we wouldn't have worked with him. We have clients falling over themselves to work with us. I don't say that braggingly. I say that in the most humble way possible. Like, we're blessed. We turn away more people than we accept as clients right now. And we wouldn't have worked with him were he not at the utmost level of integrity, and if I didn't have respect for him. What I've learned since working with him is exactly who he says he is on his podcast and exactly who he says he is in this interview is who he is. He's the real deal. He's legit. He's honest. He's straightforward. And there's like, you never wonder where you stand with Ray. It's not something you will ever ask yourself. Like, is he this? Is he that? Like, no, he's an open and honest person, and he's fun. He's hysterical. That's the one thing I learned about him. I always kind of knew he was a little bit funny and a little bit of a goofball. But after working with him, I mean, he even said it one day. He's like, our team meetings have got to be your funniest that you have as with your clients. I was like, yep. You know what I just realized? We never started the broadcast. Last episode or this one.
Oh my gosh. Way to go, Matt.
So, note to Josh here. Edit this part out because I just realized we never started it. So we're gonna do without video on these two. I guess it is what it is. We're gonna play. We'll play our audio and then the video, and then Ray's just not gonna have video. So I just look down and I see this green button that says "Start Broadcast," and I go, "Crap!" So let's finish.
How come
up.
you didn't see that 30 minutes ago?
I don't know. Don't let me forget to press this after we start this. Like we finally, it's because your thing wasn't working. And, I blame you. All right. What was I just saying? So
Ray's funny.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing is, I mean, like I said, he is who he says he is, and I have learned so much about business, about life from him. I consider him to be a mentor of sorts, and I'm glad this was the top episode because it was one of my favorites to think about doing. It was one of my favorites to actually do, and now he's become, simply put, one of my favorite people that I know.
You know, some of the things that I do that right in the middle of it. Hold on.
Okay, Josh, have fun with this one.
I gotta switch the menthols. It's killing me. All right.
It was unnecessary. I already did it.
Yeah, but it doesn't do it on my side.
Like he can't tell? Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Ah! Go ahead. Okay.
You know, man, I completely agree. And the thing that I noticed was a lot the same that you said. The first one was Ray's hilarious. I mean, he's absolutely hilarious. And it's so much fun being in on his meetings and seeing the way that he communicates what he wants to get across and running his business, but he does it in a fun way, and everybody feels at ease, and everybody is, engaged with what's going on, and he's really, really good at that. The other thing that I think is important, and it ties into what you were saying, is as we were beginning his launch, I made this comment, and I told him this, and I told you this, that as I was getting emails back asking people if they would like to help support it, time and time again, more than anybody else that I've ever been a part of us promoting, we got emails back saying either I love Ray, or Ray's the nicest guy I've ever met, or even a bigger compliment, you know what, Ray's who he says he is, and he has unbelievable integrity. And that to me speaks volumes for somebody, that these people unsolicited, when we asked them if they wanted to help promote it, they had these amazingly good things to say about this man and the way that he conducts his business. And that's just, I go back and I listen to this interview again as we were preparing for it, and it's so neat to have that backdrop. And so, I hope that you saw that as you re-listen to this interview, the sincerity and the just he is who he says he is. And that was the coolest thing I got. And I think that's the thing that's changed for me from when you first did that interview, and I barely knew who Ray Edwards was at the time, and now being able to work with him. So, is there anything else you want to address on this episode before we get into reviews?
That was such an awkward trip.
I know.
All right, so actually, let's go back and redo that. Okay, real quick. So just not the whole part. Just so How about just say, so, Matt, before we get to this week's question, let's do that. You ready?
Ah!
It was unnecessary. Okay.
Oh, but it's not necessary when you do it. Okay, Mac, before we get to this week's question, let's go ahead and thank a few more people who have left us ratings and reviews on iTunes.
Awesome, Mark. I want to give a shout out to Hank Davis, to DI Just Me, Marketing Conductor, Agile Bettis, Agili Bettis. I have no idea how to pronounce that. I just realized. Getting more energy without caffeine. I love that. Sean D. Cook and Linda. I'm going to butcher your name. So I'm Linda Chausis. Hopefully close. So sorry if that wasn't awesome. I can tell Linda is definitely from either the UK or Australia because she spells favorites with a U. And I love that. I love that actually. So it's I'm going to start doing that probably myself. But she her first episode she listened to was The Ignorant Maestro with this episode sucks. Oh, okay. So I'm gonna start the whole reviews over. Ready?
Let me find out who that is for you.
I'm not even gonna mention it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, so I mean, big thank you and shout out to Hank Davis, who's talks about how we talk.
We've obviously been doing this for like 3 hours.
I have to pee so bad, and I'm still looking into the camera like we're even. Okay, right.
Do you want me to do my part? Would that make it easier for you?
No.
Otherwise, that's how you always start it. So yeah.
Might need a break. Okay. Yeah, Mark. So thank you and shout out to Hank Davis, to a Marketing Conductor, to DI Just Me, to Agili Bettis, Sean D. Cook, and Linda Chausis. You guys are awesome. Thank you for your ratings and reviews. Super appreciative of those. Cannot say it enough how much of a difference those make. Just not only to me personally, just to get excited to see those. They fire me up every day, but also to help us spread the word about this show.
Absolutely. And if you have not left us a rating and review, you can find the link to leave one on the show notes page at mattmcwilliams.com/099. You can also get access to Matt's World Changer Vault, which has all of the resources that Matt's created over the last couple years. And you can get that by texting World Changer, all one word, to 33444. Again, that's World Changer to 33444. Or you can find the link in the show notes page, which is again, mattmcwilliams.com/099. And now this week's question is, if you could talk to anyone in the world, who would it be? Why are you laughing over there?
I don't know. Okay, go ahead.
I'm so recording a video intro to these and explaining that this is why we don't have video. Because we had so much trouble. Okay. Wait, hold on. Yeah, okay. Head on over to mattmcwilliams.com/099 to answer that question, as well as get the links to everything we talked about today and the unedited video cast of this episode. Maybe. Hold on. My headphones are going crazy again. Okay. Head over to mattmcwilliams.com/099 to answer that question, as well as get the links to everything we talked about today and the unedited video cast of this episode. And now, for Matt's pick of the week. Matt, what do you have for us this week?
I got snot running out.
You're on mute, dude. I can't hear you. You need to turn your microphone back on.
No, I'm not. You mean to tell me you can't hear me?
I can't hear you. What did you do?
You're messing with me, aren't you?
Me? Hold on. Talk now.
Test.
Nope.
1 2
Now?
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Dude, it's picking me up on Audacity.
No, we can't hear you.
Are you serious?
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
I can't hear you.
It's not this. I mean, I
This is ridiculous. Nothing?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Just appear. Go to appear. Hang on. Sorry, Josh. Are you going to appear or not?
I can't hear you. Can you hear me? It was going.
Hey, so hey, can you hear me?
Just give it a second.
But I can hear you twice now. Oh, that's because never mind.
You
Okay.
can hear me on Hangouts, but I can't hear you.
Okay, so we can end the hangout. Here's what we're gonna do. Since we're not recording video anyway, let's just finish it up, and we'll rock it from there. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So you asked me. You said, and now what's the pick of the week, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me ask that again. Or
Nope, we're good.
I'll clap.
Yep. Okay. Love you, Josh.
Hi, Josh.
Have fun with this. All right. Yeah. So this week's pick of the. All right. From the moment I wake up, beep 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 boop beep boop, beep 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 boop. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, this week's pick of the week, Mark, is a book that has completely changed my life in so many ways. It's called Influence. It's by Robert. Are you laughing? Mute
Sorry,
yourself.
I just went back to the show notes page and saw that you wrote it here like 6 times.
Okay. Mute yourself. Get yourself together, man. Okay. All right. Yeah, Mark. So this week's pick of the week is a book that has absolutely rocked my world, changed my life. It's called Influence, and it's by a psychologist, Robert Cialdini. The subtitle is called The Psychology of Persuasion. And the thing is, persuasion is not a dirty word. It's all about knowing how to use it. You can use it for evil. You can use it for good. It's like, what is it? The Spider-Man quote that the grandfather says to Peter Parker. He says, just take out the long pause. It's like the Spider-Man quote that, the grandfather says to Peter Parker. He says, with great, okay. With great power comes great responsibility. Okay. Yeah, Mark. So this pick of the... Yep. All right. So yeah, Mark, this week's pick of the week is a book that has completely rocked my world over the years. It's called Influence by Robert Cialdini, and he's a social psychologist. And the subtitle of the book is called The Psychology of Persuasion. And here's the thing is, persuasion is not a dirty word. It's really all about knowing how to use it. And he does study after study, Cialdini does, of how, basically to show you how to be more persuasive, whether it's at work or at home in marketing or leading others. And he also shows you how not to fall for the persuasive tricks of others. So just let me be clear, this book is going to completely blow you away. I've written more blog posts about this book, about the lessons I've learned as a result of this book than I have about any other book, because it really is that good. And the thing is about persuasion, it's kind of like power. You know, to quote Peter Parker's grandfather in Spider-Man, he says, with great power comes great responsibility. When you read this book, you now have great power. I would just say to use it responsibly, because you will have amazing, you'll learn so much from this book.
Absolutely. And we will link to that in the show notes at mattmcwilliams.com/099. And until next week, remember, you were born to change the world. You were born to make history. You were born to experience prosperity beyond your wildest dreams. So believe it, become it, and pass it on. Oh, my goodness. Are you talking?
You want to do 101 real quick?
Do we dare? Yeah, we can. Where's 101 at?
Postponing.
Real quick, that's like the 45-minute one.
Yeah, we're done. Good stuff, though. We at least accomplished something.
Oh, we're done through 100 or 99. So, I mean.
Basically, we only did 4. no,
No,
5.
we did 5.
5, 95, 96, 97, 98.
Yeah.
99, yeah. And then we did like 103, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool, man.
Yep.
Well, hey, I'm pleased.
Oh yeah, that's. I mean, we're pushed out to.
Fifth.
We need to do our episode 100 will be the week before Thanksgiving or the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. So in the next, I don't know, maybe that Friday. Maybe remember that Friday when Tri-Bridge is done.
Here's what I would say, if you're cool
What
with
are you
it,
thinking?
is let's figure out what we're doing for what we're doing for 100, and in Michael Hyatt, like how we're actually going to do that interview, because I'm thinking we could do something different, and then we'll rock plans from there. So, in other words, what we could do, thinking out loud here, is we could just do Michael Hyatt as like a one, like just you and me with him all together, and just do it as one.
Okay.
And then, if at all possible, we could do 100 and 102 and 104 kind of at that same time.
Okay.
Maybe. We'll see. Let's just play that one by ear.
Okay. Yeah, we've got a few weeks to worry about it.
We're getting better at this batching thing. And the big thing that sucked today was technology.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing we could do
Yeah,
about
we
that.
spent
But
20 minutes. Well, I don't know. This very last point was us. Not
we spent
pushing record.
it cost us half an hour.
Yeah, but then not pushing
So-
the start button on the video. That wasn't technology. And then
Well,
our
it
our
was
laughing-
because of the
our
whole
laughing hysteria.
having to
Yeah,
do
That's true.
that was all related to technology. So yeah.
that's true. I'll give you
Right.
that. You should see over here. I've got like 7 shirts laid on the couch,
Yeah, me too.
like 4 ties, and so. Any fun plans for the rest of the day?
Hang on.
Oh, you couldn't just walk over there and have it move? Nice.
So that right
That's the first time
there
I've seen the
is
rest
what-
of your room.
Huh?
That's the first time I've seen the rest of the room.
Yeah, that is what my my chair looks like in the office. It's got all those clothes that I ended up not wearing, basically.
But
Yeah,
if you
there's
needed
my-
them, by golly.
There's my sitting desk.
Mm-hmm.
That I never use anymore.
I was gonna say that's pushed up against the wall.
And this is you on the,
Hey, I know that guy.
and then
That's
this
my
one?
light. That's the ceiling. This is where the deer are at, right? Yeah, you showed me out there before.
I have. That's our front yard.
That's the front yard?
Yep, that's the. So that's the. I don't know. Here. That's our front yard.
Nice. Very nice. You have more trees in your front yard than I think are in my entire town.
Nice. That's our.
I live in a desert.
Yep. And then this
Cool.
is me. Ah! There's me. Hey.
Thanks for that.
Look at that. Oh my goodness, dude.
You are balding. I was going to make that comment the other day, but then I decided to be nice and not tell you that. You're not balding. You're thinning.
Oh my goodness. It's really the first time I've ever seen up there.
Some serious thinning going on there.
Anyway.
It's the first step.
Yeah, but
Pretty
see, I
soon
like
you're gonna
that.
be bald like me.
I don't know if you can see. Why would you be able to see it? I have no idea why. Like, hey, can you see my camera?
Yeah, check it out. Here's the camera. You need a mirror to show me the camera.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Well, anyway,
Yeah.
it's a 1080p though.
Nice.
So it's HD.
Which one is it?
And, Logitech, $70.
Okay. I looked at those. I was thinking about getting one of those. Very nice. Nice. Any exciting plans for the rest of the day?
Working
Working?
for a little bit. Yeah, I got a little bit to do.
Well, don't work too hard.
What?
Don't work too hard. Hang out with family.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm gonna run.
Alrighty.
Thanks, man. Good stuff. Holy shnikes.
So I'll be
Yep.
editing that on Monday. Oh,
What's that?
I should have stopped Audacity, I guess. It's just
Oh, shoot. Yeah.